Now we're going to show you our documentary, which is what we thought we should share with you as our final wrap-up to the Assin North story. So we start from the by-election, what it means, the history of by-elections, why the NDC victory is important, what is the ramifications for 2024. All of that is coming up now. Get your popcorn, have a look for the next 20 minutes.
I am going to open the back because you have to check and get to know that the content is for back
On Tuesday, June 27th, 2023, the Electoral Commission of Ghana conducted a by-election in the Assin North constituency in the Central Region. It was an eventful by-election, but some people are asking, how is it that the Honorable James Quason, the Member of Parliament for Assin North, elected in the 2020 election, but who was declared unqualified and unfit to be a Member of Parliament by the Supreme Court, and who was subsequently removed from Parliament, be able to present himself again for the by-election?
It is hereby ordered that James Quason, James Quason, first respondent hearing, is hereby restrained from holding himself out as a Member of Parliament elect for the Assin North constituency within the Central Region of the Republic of Ghana, and further presenting himself to be sworn in as a Member of Parliament elect as such until the final determination of the petition filed against him by the applicant here, given under my hand and seal of the High Court at Cape Coast, 6th day of January 2021.
To answer this question, we first have to understand what is a by-election. Now, a by-election is created by Article 112, 5 and 6 of the 1992 Constitution as follows. Whenever a vacancy occurs in Parliament, the Clerk of Parliament shall notify the Electoral Commission in writing within 7 days after the vacancy occurred, and a by-election shall be held within 30 days after the vacancy occurs. Clause 6. Notwithstanding Clause 5 of this article, a by-election shall not be held within 3 months before the holding of a general election. The Assin North by-election could have happened earlier if the events of 6th January 2021 did not take a violent turn. On that night, MP for Efutu Alexander Afenyo-Markin, who was the freshman deputy majority leader, began his new job by boldly calling out James Quason as being unqualified to be among the members of Parliament to be sworn in on that occasion.
Honorable Afenyo-Markin.
Very well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, you had in your preliminary remarks referred to some communication, the basis upon which we are here. You referred to a communication from the Electoral Commission. I am aware that the jurisdiction of a high court in this country has been invoked in respect of a constitutional provision under Article 94(1).
The member.
Mr. Chair, as a matter of preliminary inquiry from my side, I would want to find out from you whether you are on notice of a proceeding or an order from the High Court in respect of an application by Michael Akuma Nam. Listen, Mr. Speaker,
Chair, wait, Honorable. At the appropriate time.
The reaction from the NDC on this matter showed ugly scenes that recorded what could be described as the darkest day in the Parliament of all of the Fourth Republic and even before that.
They are pushing each other. There's a lot of pushing and shoving and strong words and gesticulating in the faces of MPs.
That's Dr.
Dr. He's very thick and tall, and he's using his size to push his way through the crowd now. I see Muntaka Mubarak holding the ballot box now. He's holding the ballot box.
After that event, the 8th Parliament continued to be afflicted with tensions over numbers and counting of heads, as both parties had the same share of MPs at 137 each, and an independent candidate who decided to sit with the majority NPP and therefore created a majority caucus of 138, so 137 for NDC and 138 for NPP. The battle for James Quason's seat in court then began in earnest, beginning with the High Court and eventually ending up in the Supreme Court, with a unanimous verdict delivered by the court on the 17th of May 2023, which confirmed the High Court's decision that James Quason was not qualified to be a Member of Parliament, the same matter that Alexander Afenyo-Markin had referred to on the 6th of January 2021. After the court verdict, Article 1125 kicked in and a by-election was upon us. It was to be sorted out by the MPP and the NDC. At the outset, the issue was whether or not the incumbent candidate will run again, given that he was still facing a court trial. In all legal circumstances, James Quason, the same candidate who had been removed from Parliament by the court, was able to contest because this time round, time had cured his defect. He is now a Ghanaian citizen only. He had completed the process to make himself a full Ghanaian. So, James Quason was on the ballot, and the MPP had to find a candidate. The MPP actually did have a candidate from the last election who James Quason beat by 3,000 votes, but this time she did not file to contest. The MPP got a new candidate in the person of the Honorable Charles Opoku, and then the campaign was on in earnest. All of the MPP and all of the NDC descended into the small town, the small constituency of Assin North. In terms of a by-election, this was the 35th by-election in the Fourth Republic. All 35 had occurred because either the MP had died or were disqualified like James Quason, or they resigned like Mohammed Chambers or Doa Jao. One of the major by-elections held in the Fourth Republic was the one occasioned by the resignation of Mohammed Ibn Chambers, a foremost Ghanaian global diplomat. The seat was the Bimbilla seat. The NDC held it with Chambers but lost it in the by-election to Dominic Nitiwul, who has since held it for the New Patriotic Party. The Honorable Nitiwul is currently serving as the Minister for Defense. Let's go back to history then and look at the first ever major by-election that occurred in the history of political Ghana. It occurred in the early 50s. It was between the ruling CPP and a new political party. The CPP had come under intense pressure because of economic difficulties, very similar to today's situation. The story is captured on page 274 of a book entitled Politics in Ghana, 1946 to 1960. It's written by British historian Dennis Austin. The story is as follows. The CPP assembly member for the Ashanti Rural Constituency at Chumangwa was killed in a lorry accident, and a by-election took place on 14th July 1955. Here was the first opportunity of a direct trial of strength of this kind between the two parties in a key constituency in the heart of the cocoa farming country near Kumasi. Each side concentrated their efforts, bringing in registered voters by taxi and lorry from the western Ahafo districts, where the Achuma farmers were planting new farms. N.A. Wilbeck, Kojo Botiu, and Aaron Oforiata came up for the CPP from the south. Bediako Poku, now the loans manager of the Cocoa Purchasing Company, and Joe Mainu, provincial manager, were there with the company's lorries and officials. B.E. Jura campaigned for the party from Kumasi with an escort of action troopers. The NLM mustered a large array of them: Bafosa Akoto, R.R. Amponsa, K.A. Buzia, William Oforiata, Kobna Kese, representatives of the Northern People's Party and the Muslim Association Party, the local chiefs, the party members. The CPP had done what it could to make up lost ground by authorizing in April of that year an increase in the cocoa price from 72 shillings to 80 shillings for the small mid-season crop. But this now went against the party, since what might have been accepted gratefully as a concession was now looked upon as weakness. The cocoa issue dominated the election. A local highlife appeared, sung through the constituency by youth and school children, with the farmers actually approving. The song was like this: if you want to send your children to school, it is cocoa. If you want to build your house, it is cocoa. If you want to marry, it is cocoa. If you want to buy cloth, it is cocoa. If you want to buy a lorry, it is cocoa. Whatever you want to do in this world, it is with cocoa money that you do it. The NLM sponsored the former GCP, and in 1951, a former CPP candidate, B.F. Kusi, a local trader. The CPP candidate was B.K. Kufuor. He was a cocoa broker and a farmer. Polling in large numbers, scattered farming areas of thick bush and poor roads was low, although up to the 1954 general election, the figures went up nearly by 25%. The NLM accused the CPP of using the cocoa PC lorries to carry voters to the polls. The CPP replied with charges that the NLM had imported additional non-registered voters from Kumasi, but the police were there in great numbers. The polling agents on both sides were vigilant, and the voting was orderly. The NLM won decisively. BF Kusi obtained 3,998, representing 69.5%. BK Kufuor of the CPP obtained 1,758, representing 30.5%. The NLM rejoiced. Immediately the results was announced, Bafosa Akoto handed a message to Jura to give to Kwame Nkrumah, saying, quote, "My supporters and I have won our first victory, the forerunner of many more and crushing victories. We have defeated you and your supporters, and we will continue to defeat you whenever and wherever we meet at the polls." Unquote. B.F. Kusi, the successful candidate, now re-entered Parliament, the National Assembly, where he had sat before as a CPP member in 1951. Declaring that he was grateful to the Ashanti nation for its wonderful support, and that he dedicated his life to the cause of the Federation and the institution in this country of true democracy. The Asantehene congratulated the people of Achuma and renewed his pledge to support the movement. The CPP could do nothing about it, although it might take some comfort from the fact that even if defeated, it was not completely routed, even in the heart of the cocoa-growing district, and acknowledge NLM stronghold. So that was the story. Isn't it a beautiful story of history of democracy in Ghana? So the NLM gained a lot of hope with this victory, and for the CPP, it appeared to have been a wake-up call. So the CPP, which was the ruling party, returned to the drawing board, put themselves together, and oiled their election machine. They came back in 1956 for the main election and they won a decisive victory. Those NPP people who are aware of this history will be hoping against their recent defeat in Assin North that history will repeat itself. They will take solace from the wisest man that ever lived, King Solomon. He said in Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verse 9 as follows: "What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again, for there is nothing new under the sun." Well, the NDC may be aware of this possibility, so you will notice that even in their victory, their leaders are cautious.
However, I caution, we cannot afford to be complacent. We cannot afford to be complacent. They've been wounded, they know their backs are against the wall, and they will do anything. But again, this election has shown that it's irrespective of what you do, the power of the people is stronger than the people in power.
And the real concern is that President Mahama is a son of the North and they love him over there. But they have voted for him to be president before. They believe that he did well. He did some good and maybe some not so good. However, Dr. Bawumia is younger, and because they have never voted for him to be president before, they may vote for him, same as they did for John Mahama, first as vice president and later as president. Dr. Bawumia too has been voted for as vice president, but now he could be president, like John Mahama. And which father doesn't want two of his sons to be president at two separate times in a country like Ghana with a rich history and a glorious democracy? Well, every father may wish for that. Also, the intellectual class in the North are by and large united in promoting their joint interest. So whilst a Dr. Raymond Atuguba, the Dean of the Faculty of Law of the University of Ghana, may be NDC and in fact a former executive secretary to President Mahama, he, Dr. Atuguba, may be quite happy to see Dr. Bawumia, another intellectual from the North, as president. That certainly will delight Dr. Atuguba and intellectuals like him from the North. But one may ask, what about Abu Sakara? He also is from the North, and he too ran for president. Abu Sakara ran on the ticket of the CPP, and since the CPP has suffered in fortune almost to the point of oblivion, Dr. Sakara was not able to convince the North that voting for him will send him to the Jubilee House. That is very different in the case of Dr. Bawumia, because if he wins, he will be the candidate of the NPP, a huge party, a political juggernaut, and a behemoth of an elephant. So there's more optimism and excitement about Dr. Bawumia. Whatever it is, Assin North will put a smile on President Mahama's face, and he will begin to feel strong about 2024. And yes, congratulations are in order. The NDC won the election. A tweet from President Akufo-Addo about Assin North has been widely received with grace. He said as follows: "Yesterday, Tuesday 27 June 2023, Ghana's democratic credentials were strengthened even further following the conduct of a peaceful and credible elections in the Assin North by-election. I congratulate warmly the chairperson and members of the Electoral Commission again for a job well done. The security services are to be commended for maintaining law and order during the holding of the elections, as is the media for providing extensive coverage before, during and after the elections. I congratulate the National Democratic Congress on its victory yesterday. I urge members of my party, the New Patriotic Party, to keep their heads up, recognizing that in a democracy, there are winners and there are losers, and that we will fight another day. We once held the Assin North seat, and I am confident that sooner rather than later, Assin North will be blue again." Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana. But for now, the NDC owns the bragging rights. As they will say, Eyezu, Eyeza.
Eyezu, Eyezu. Sana yekami. Yebeko. Yeah, Yesu. Yo, yesa. Atami cho mama and this double. Yesu, Yesu. What you say? Yebeko. Yeah, Yesu. Atami John Mama and this double. Yesu. Atami say and this double. John Mama and this. Atami say and this double. John Mama and this. Double. Your mama is